Welcome everyone to the webinar. Our guest today is Mr. Manyan NG from Germany, China expert with a lot of international experience. And at the end, we will have a time for questions, and Mr. Manyan will answer. So, Mr. Manyan, you can start.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. When we think about China today, many people think about two things. One is the economic miracle that has taken place the last 30 years. Another thing is very currently happening, and that is the tension between China and USA, and perhaps not just between China and USA, but China and many democratic countries. So I would like to spend this half an hour to give you some background information so you understand why it could have been an economic miracle, and perhaps also understand why there is a tension now between US and China, and hopefully you get some inspiration so that you can also foresee what is going to happen in the near future. So let me start with a personal experience. I was, say, about 15 years ago, I was in China. One of my last visits to China. And I got the chance to be invited by a very high-ranking official. Well, he's on the level of minister level, right? So, and officially, it was just a kind of friendly reception because I was working as a relatively high position in a European multinational company doing business in infrastructure project and energy project and so on. Yeah, so interesting is actually it turned out to be a kind of recruitment meeting. You know, this minister tried to, you know, to make me or try to make me very sympathetic to the government of China, and hopefully manage to make me to work for them. Okay, so in the talk. He was trying to impress me about the fantastic economic development in China, you know, and then he foresee that it will continue to develop like that, and then in the near future, China will be a world power. You know, basically his message is, you know, you as a Chinese, you know, don't miss the chance to join this bandwagon and be part of the creator of a future superpower. So he was telling me about how the fantastic GDP growth in those years. Yeah? And after his attempt to impress me, then I came up with a kind of, I would say, a naughty question, yeah, maybe because I was a naughty boy when I was young. So I say, Mr. Minister, what do you think is the main reason? Can you give me two most important reasons why this economic miracle has been possible? So he thought for a while, and then he said, yeah, reason number one, the very hardworking and productive Chinese people. I nick my head and agree. Yeah? And then he say the second reason, because of the correct politics, correct leadership of the Chinese Communist Party. I had more difficulty to nick my head. Yeah. So and then you know, as I say, being naughty, so I gave him a tricky question. I say, okay, but one thing is difficult for me to understand. If that is because of the hardworking Chinese people and the fantastic Communist Party, but how come between the year 1949, when the Communist Party took power, until 1979, yeah, so the first 30 years, there was no economic miracle. Actually, the opposite. The already troubled economy after the Second World War and the Civil War in China, 1949, became actually worse after 30 years. So here come my naughty questions. So I said, Mr. Minister, can that be the case that at that period, there was not these hardworking Chinese people living in this country, but some other people? Or maybe it was another party, not the Communist Party. Well, it sounds like a joke, but it is very serious. I think for us who want to understand China, you have to understand why the first 30 years there was no miracle, but rather opposite. We have actually a decrease in productivity and in economy. So 1949, the Chinese GDP was about say 5% roughly of the world GDP because of all the war and so on. Yeah, as I say, China suffered then from 8 years of wars. Second World War and Civil War. And after 30 years of communist ruling, the GDP of China was only 3% of the world GDP. So actually it's become poorer. And China has basically always have 20% of the world population. So ladies and gentlemen, imagine 20% of the population only create economic wealth of 3% of the world. So then you can imagine how poor China was. Now, today we all know that China is much richer and the economy much stronger. So, but we still have to find the answer. Why the first 30 years it was no miracle? Now, I tell you why. Very simple. Because we have then to look a little bit into the history of China from 1949. China has a long history. Let's just start from 1949. Well, actually, I would say I should start 1921, when the Chinese Communist Party was founded. And that was founded under the leadership of the Soviet Communist Party. The Soviet Union sent their head of Far East Soviet to Shanghai, together with the communists in China, created this Chinese Communist Party, 1921, on the 1st of July in Shanghai. So, and after then, they started their revolution, making assassination, making, actually what they did, sometimes it looks very like what we experience today with the terrorist organization, right? Because they were small, they were weak, so they were using all these terrorist methods to gain power. And then they took the chance that when China was invaded by Japanese, and the Chinese government at that time, the government of Republic of China, the same government who is ruling in Taiwan. Don't forget, the official name of the government in Taiwan is Government of Republic of China. And the Republic of China, their government and the army were much weakened by the Japanese, so that the communists got a chance. So to say, when the Japanese have, so to say, weakened a lot of the government army, they attacked from behind. I make a long story short, So they took power. And after they took power, they want to be sure, like many power game people, to be sure with their power. So what do? Well, what typical power-hungry regime, you try to get rid of your opponents or potential opponents. So who are the opponents and the potential opponents? Well, they have identified the country's elite in politics, in economy, and in culture. All these are target to be removed. So they started a long, 30 years long of persecution. First, they persecuted all the landlords and all the rich people. At that time, in the 50s, rich people are a synonym of bad people. That's what the Chinese young people learn. And sorry. And also, the second target group was the intellectual. You know, the rich people, they have power because they have the money, yeah, and so on. They have the influence. The intellectual, they may not be that rich in their wallet, but they are rich in mind, yeah. So that is also can be dangerous. So what they did is they first told all the intellectual, please feel free to say your opinion, yeah, and that took about 1 year long. Really, quite a lot of freedom. They promote, they encourage all the university people, all the academic circle, that people should talk freely about, you know, criticize the party and so on. And what happened is it ended up with a long blacklist, and all these intellectuals end up in jail or labor camp. And later, it continued with the religious groups, yeah, because again, they identify religious people or people with a strong belief, with a strong spirituality, are also identified as potential opponents. So the Tibetan Buddhists, yeah, they became a target. Also, the Christian, although they are not so numerous, but today we have something like 80 million Christians in China, and the Tibetans, Buddhists were more maybe. And also other religious group, and later until today, they also persecute the group Falun Gong, which is not a religion, but it's a group of belief. Yeah, believer. They have a common belief. They believe that there is a God. Yeah. So and all this is not in line with the party policy. So all this persecution, I mean, is numerous, was to serve the purpose, get rid of any potential risk, potential opponents, okay? And also including these human rights defenders, human rights lawyer, and so on. So after 30 years of, I tell you, very brutal and cruel persecution, they thought, now we are pretty safe. Yeah? So that is around 1978, 79. Then you may, for those who are interested in China, you may recall that at that time, then a new leader came called Deng Xiaoping, and he talked about open policy and reform policy. The whole Western world was actually released and quite happy. Oh, maybe you know, China is becoming a more reasonable country. And what happened is, now they have get rid of the potential opponents. So don't believe that the communists don't want to be rich. Then you are wrong. Yeah, the communists, they have only one big goal. That is to get power, to have full control, much power, and you know, endless power if possible. And money or wealth is part of the power. So don't think that communist regime only want to keep country poor. It is only because Soviet Union and the Eastern European communists, they did not manage to make the economy strong. But the Chinese communists have learned all the mistakes from the other. So actually they really said that Soviet Union went down because they did not manage with the economy. So they decided to do whatever we can do to make sure that economy must go up. So what do you need to develop economy? Well, you need labor, no problem. China has a lot of people, right? Well, you need skilled labor too. Well, Chinese people are like Jewish people, very good in learning and like to learn new things. So that's also no problem. But then you need more. You need technology. You need capital. But that is not so easy. At that time, 1979, China did not have that much technology in their hands and not that much capital in their hands. So where are the technologies? Where are the capital? In the Western countries. Also in Hong Kong. I'm actually originally from Hong Kong. Yeah. Hong Kong, although it's a small, but it's a mega city and there's a lot of money there and they are good in making money. Also in Taiwan. Now why I mention Hong Kong and Taiwan? Because for the communist Chinese, it is easier for them to approach people in Taiwan and Hong Kong first, particularly Hong Kong, because they are Chinese also, speak the same languages, and so on. And the other area where you can find technology is America and Western Europe and Japan, okay? So these Chinese communists, they are smart communists. It's a new generation. It's not the same as the Russian communists, yeah? They are very smart. And so they say, okay, we have to get this technology. How can we get it? We cannot force people to give us technology. It's difficult. And so let's find a way. And the way is very simple. The way is in America, for example, you have a lot of high tech that China needs, yeah, and also in Japan and in other countries. So they have a new strategy. And the new strategy in Chinese, they call it Tao Guang Yang Hui. To make a simple translation, is more or less meaning, hide your strength and bide your time. Okay? So what happened is, after this so-called reform policy, all the Chinese officials, the communist officials, when they come to Israel, when they come to US, when they come to Germany, yeah, they all have a smiling face, yeah, because you should hide your strength. And then they will tell you, I'm now talking about 20 years ago, yeah? Then they will say, oh, China is just a developing country. Don't worry, we are not a threat. Yeah, sure, you want us to have more human rights and democracy and freedom, but right now the Chinese people not even have enough to eat. So we need to develop our economy first, and then we can talk about human rights and freedom and so on. So, and that sounds very nice in the ears of many Western leaders, yeah? So, maybe also some leaders in Israel, yeah? Because the Chinese Communist Party has also identified Israel as a good source of technology. And maybe also capital, but most capital actually come from America. So, anyway, from President Jimmy Carter to Bill Clinton to Bush to Obama, all thought that, wow, let's engage China. Slowly, peacefully, they will become one of us. So they opened the door for Chinese to access technology and to access capital. Not only a lot of foreign direct investment from all these countries to China, but even more in the recent years, in the last 10, 20 years, many Chinese companies are actually listed in the New York stock market and so on, and they attract a huge lot of capital. So, as I said, to develop economy, you need labor, skilled labor, technology, and capital. All are in place. So Chinese economy can take off. But of course, some Western country, also Japan, yeah, democratic, they were a bit careful not to give away all the technology because, this is not normal. But what they did is they actually steal really a lot of technology. And because of this engagement policy started by US and the whole Western world follow. So the Chinese could access a lot of technology and to steal also technology. If they cannot steal it, they will put it as a condition. If you want me to buy a big power station from you, then you better give me that and that technology. That is a kind of forced technology transfer. And then you have, if they cannot steal and they cannot force, then they buy the whole company. If the company is not big. There are Chinese companies who specialize in watching out which company in Israel and in California, in Silicon Valley, are working with super high tech, and they are not too expensive. We afford to buy. So there are a lot of Chinese companies doing nothing but just buying such company. So that became a tremendous success, this strategy of hiding your strength and bide your time. And parallel to this strategy of higher strength, and making Western people to like China, they are much smarter than the Soviet Russian. So for example, that they have spread around more than 1,000 Confucius Institute in the world, also in Israel. I think there are 2 in Israel, one in Tel Aviv and one in Jerusalem. Officially, they are there to spread Chinese culture, to teach people Chinese language. But my God, it is the same regime, the same government, the same Communist Party who destroyed the Chinese culture in the time of Cultural Revolution. For those elderly people, you may remember, from 1966 to 1976, 10 years long, they mobilized the whole people of China to crush, to destroy the culture. Everything from belief, from philosophy, from poetry and painting, everything, particularly the thinking. Young people did not learn anymore all these old wisdoms, and only learn what Chairman Mao said and what the Communist Party want them to learn. So remember, today's Chinese, unfortunately, has lost a lot of their contact to their cultural roots. And instead, they are brainwashed by a lot of, the way communists want them to think. Now, what does the communists want them to think? It is not just like people think they want you to love Karl Marx and Lenin. That's not good enough, no. They actually, what they really want the 1.4 billion Chinese to be are very obedient but intelligent tools to help them to strengthen their power. Okay, so you can see almost all young people in China, young students, they were all encouraged and financed by the state to go to foreign country to study what? Not philosophy, not psychology, not sociology, but science and technology, because they believe only by mastering science and technology we can be really strong and we can control the world. Now, believe me, there has been a target for them to reach objective already since the establishment of the People's Republic of China, 1949. There was an internal decision that within 100 years, maximum 100 years, China shall be the superpower number 1 and replacing the US. Okay? So, and they have been following this strategy, this target all the time. Then you understand why it happened, this and that. Don't think that they were, in the 30 years they were communists and then later they are no longer communists. No. They are very consequent in their principle. And what they really believe and follow as a principle is the end justifies the means. Any means is good if it promote, if it help me to achieve my end, my goal. And the goal is very simple: power, power, power. They now back to the story about hiding your strength and bide your time. Now, what has happened in the last 3-4 years is some Chinese leader, or the Chinese leaders, they are of the opinion that our time has come. So, we don't need to wait anymore. And that's why you have noticed there's a change of policy. Chinese foreign policy become more aggressive, more direct, and even threatening smaller country and so on. And sometimes they talk also tough to America, only talk tough. They haven't done that much tough yet. And don't believe that, because Xi Jinping is a bad guy. No. It's a strategy, it's a master plan, 100 years marathon, to reach a superpower. So they think they are already, almost close to be the superpower number one. Actually, they know that they are only number two. But why then they show all their teeth now? Well, because there is also some change in the West, led by America. Donald Trump, Mike Pence, and Mike Pompeo, all these people are relatively good informed about what has been going on in China. And they actually, in my opinion, they did a good thing by admitting that they have been doing wrong for 30, 40 years in China policy. Richard Nixon started the whole mistake of engaging China. And then it made worse and worse by Jimmy Carter, and then Bill Clinton, who helped China to become a member of the World Trade Organization. And they never really obey or abide to the World Trade rules. So now, and they also found out, America, that China has been, so to say, duping them, cheating them, showing a smiling face while they were stealing, showing a fun, all sort of deception. They found out this is a master of deception. You cannot trust them. They promise everything and they never honor their own promise. I mean, I can give you an example. You all know Dalai Lama. You know that when communists came to power, Dalai Lama was in Beijing, and Mao promised him, don't worry, go back and tell all the Tibetans they can have high degree of autonomy, and free religions, practice, and so on and so on. 7 years later, 50,000 soldiers marched into Tibet. 1984, they signed a contract with Great Britain about Hong Kong. Same thing. They promised Hong Kong. From 1997, Hong Kong will return to China, and they will keep Hong Kong 50 years unchanged when it comes to political system. And you all guys know, everything's changed. With the latest so-called national security law, it changed everything. Hong Kong now is basically like any other Chinese city, Shanghai, Beijing, so on. And don't forget, when you go to China, you sit in you stay in a 4-star, 5-star hotel. You can switch on the TV and watch CNN. This is only a privilege for you, not for the Chinese people. For the Chinese people, there's zero freedom of press, freedom of expression, freedom of demonstration, freedom of assembly, freedom, you just name it. And actually, there's not even a system of rule of law. Laws in China are just tools for the party. It's rule by law, not rule of law. So, talking about deception, now finally I can end up so that we all wake up. And that is the biggest deception of our time right now. And that is the pandemic COVID-19. We can argue the origin of the virus. I'm not going to discuss about whether this virus is man-made by the Chinese Communist Party or not. One thing is for sure, that the virus was discovered in Wuhan, as early as September last year. At the latest, in November, they knew that this virus is transmittable from human to human. But what they have done, they kept telling the whole world, everything is under control. This virus is not human-to-human transmittable. They even managed to make the guy of WHO, World Health Organization, Dr. Tedros, to tell the whole world the same thing. Don't worry, the Chinese government is doing a very great job. Everything is under control. No panic. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, this guy, Dr. Tedros, he was a communist in Ethiopia. And China helped him to become a foreign minister. And while he was a foreign minister, before he became the head of WHO, he has helped China to win many projects. And don't ask me what happened in his pocket. So it is a high-level corruption, okay? It's very dangerous. So it costs a lot of life in the world. Now, I give you another example. The 23rd of January, the Chinese government make a total lockdown of the city of Wuhan and forbidding all the flights, stop all the domestic flight between Wuhan and any Chinese city, but never stop the international flight between Wuhan and foreign city, New York, Frankfurt, maybe Tel Aviv, I don't know. Yeah. So why you do that? My theory is very simple. Yeah. The virus was an accident. In the P4 lab in Wuhan, they were trying to develop biological weapons. But during that process, someone made a mistake and leaked out the virus. And the virus caused a lot of people sick and death in Wuhan. So what shall we do when the communist leader was sitting together? Well, they say, stop it as much as we can in China and let it spread in the world. It sounds crazy, but actually I was pleased that President Donald Trump said it in the United Nations General Assembly just for a week or 2 weeks ago. He said it openly, because I think the Americans have managed to get a lot of hard evidence. And this evidence, they will use it when the time comes. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, China, opportunities or threat? For me, it is more threat than opportunity. So please be careful. China will become a great country, but not with a leadership like the Chinese Communist Party today. And I don't think the Chinese Communist Party can stay forever, because when you build an empire with a lot of lies and deception, one day when the Chinese people find out that you have been lying to me, the palace of cards would just collapse in zero time. No one had foreseen the collapse of Soviet. You may say that the Chinese communists are smarter, but even they are smarter, they will still collapse because there is a strategic weakness in their system. With no freedom, no human rights, no rule of law, it is a built-in systematic weakness. They cannot last long. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And now we can move to questions and answers.
Okay, I have a question. You've said that the Chinese government, they want power, of course, money, and they want knowledge, and therefore they send many people to the Western countries to learn all the sciences, so they can bring the technology sciences to bring power, of course, and money. Now, my question is like that: if we can look at the era, I don't know how you can say that, after the Second World War.
The mistake, yeah.
Second World War. After that, if we can take a look, for example, about Japan, themselves, they developed. You can see many technologies, many companies, Sony, Honda, Toyota. Toyota became a big brand in the world, even in the US. So my question is also Samsung but it's not Japanese, but just for the question, Samsung is a North Korean, if I'm not mistaken.
South Korea. South Korea.
South Korea. So what is the difference in the mentality of the Japanese people and the South Korea people that managed to become with the big technologies, develop their own technologies, their own big operation companies in the world, but the mindset of the Chinese, it's like more of steal the knowledge. Why they did not took the same approach like the Japanese and the South Koreans?
Okay, it's very simple. You know, when you guys look at China, you should not think that China is an Asian country. You know, it's similar to Japan and just 10 times bigger, whatever. No, that the American and also many Western countries have a different opinion on China or different measures, different approach, because China has no freedom, no human rights, and no rule of law, and no democracy. That's the main difference. In Japan, you may not have a perfect system, but in Japan, basically, it's a democracy. You have a system of rule of law, and you have much more human rights respected, and you have much more freedom. That makes a huge difference. And in the history of mankind, most of the war are made by dictators. So, I mean, Germany, one of them, yeah? So that make a big difference. If Japan and South Korea get a lot of technology and become rich and become strong, that's fine, because they are peaceful regime, peaceful government, yeah? But some people may say, because Japan is small, China is big, that's why America is afraid. No, this is not the reason. I mean, India is not so small. America doesn't take the same policy towards India and then towards China, because although India still have a lot of problems to solve, but it is basically a democratic country, a country with much more freedom and much more respect for human rights. So that is the main difference. That is what we should remember when we deal with China. You are dealing with a dictatorship. You are dealing with a tyranny. Look at what they have done in Hong Kong. Yeah? They sent 5,000 Chinese mainland soldiers, undress themselves in Hong Kong police uniform, and started to beat young people to death and raped young girls and all this, and throw people down from high-rise building and claim that they committed suicide. This is Chinese regime, not comparable to Japan or South Korea. Next question, please.
So this is why they steal?
Let's move to next question.
Sorry, maybe I can add that why they steal. Yeah, because the Chinese Communist Party, since they took power, they destroyed the culture. And the culture, the traditional culture, is the bearer of morality. So in mainland China, people learn the way to live by, the end justify the means and not the moral. Deng Xiaoping, he say, doesn't matter if a cat is black or white, as long as it catches mice, he is a good cat. So basically saying, doesn't matter if you are doing it in the right way or wrong way, you are a good person or wrong person, as long as you are successful, you are great. This is a very common way of thinking in China, and that's why they steal. Chinese students who come to Israel, at least half of them are financed by the state, and they are all asked by the Chinese state to help stealing technology. Okay? They are smart. A young student look harmless, yeah? So you are not so careful. But many students get involved in sensitive research project in the university, and after the study, they may get into a sensitive project in companies and so on. And they think to steal, they don't think it's bad because they think they are brainwashed. This is to help build our great country to be strong, because all the foreigner has been bullying us, and now is the Chinese era. Now we are going to, give them a lesson if possible. Okay. Next question.
Can I ask something?
Yes, please.
I have a question.
Okay.
It's okay. Is it possible that the truth you have spoken about, people will be aware of it? It can open a World War III and war between Japan, China and the West. Is it possible that it's going to happen? Something like that? A world war, between China and the West, a real war, not only talking.
I understand. The risk is there, but I don't think the risk is that high, a world war. It all depends on what we do. If we all helped along to inform the Chinese people so that not so many 100 million Chinese people believe in the lies of the Communist Party. You guys have to understand that in China, there's no free press and not even internet. You heard about the Great Chinese Firewall. So Chinese people in China, they have no access to alternative information. So as long as they believe in what the party say, they are ready to fight for the party. And then we have to fight with a country with millions of soldiers. So that's why I think the most important thing is to promote information freedom to the Chinese. And that's why I think it's very meaningful that American government now has started a project to pull down the Chinese Great Firewall of internet. Because when the Chinese can access all information, the Chinese are not stupid. They can draw the right conclusion themselves, and they will then not die for the party.
Thank you.
Thank
I would
you.
like to ask you something. My question is, having heard your opinion about China, would you recommend for Israeli businesses to try and cooperate with Chinese businesses and try to sell their products in China?
Well, this is a difficult question, yeah. But as the world look like, I would recommend, if you have an alternative market, stay away from the Chinese market. And you know why? Well, you have two reasons. One is the moral reason. Chinese government is the biggest human rights abuser in the world. I can guarantee you that, yeah? You know that they kill people daily to take organs from them to make money in organ transplantation, yeah? The Falun Gong practitioner, they are slaughtered daily, okay? So from the moral side, I recommend not to do it. I did it. I left Chinese market, yeah, 17 years ago, okay? I'm still surviving. I still, it's okay. Yeah. Today, there's one more reason, and that is pure economical reason. The Chinese economy is going down. Don't believe in their propaganda. Since the crash in the Chinese stock market in Shanghai, 2015, it has been going down slowly every year, and now, with the American action, it will just accelerate the fall of the Chinese economy. The Americans are very determined. It's not because of economic interest. It's really because of national security. And particularly through the COVID-19, both common American people and American government, including Donald Trump, who recently also get infected, they strongly believe that this is purposely spread by the Chinese government. They have evidence on that. So you can imagine, they have killed already more than 200,000 people, more than Vietnam War and Korean War together. don't think that it's not a war just because you don't hear the fire. This is a biological war. Even if they did not manage to build a biological weapon, but leaked out a dangerous virus and then turn it to a biological war to weaken the economies of the Western world in order to, so to say, make themselves stronger. Yeah. So I know that American government is determined to decouple the American economy with Chinese economy. And you should understand that more than 50% of all foreign direct investment in China is American. Yeah? So can you imagine what will happen with Chinese economy? So the rest you decide yourself.
Can I ask a question?
Yes?
Yes, please.
Actually, it's two questions. One very short. You mentioned this business about 100 years. Starting date of those
1949.
1949. Okay. Second question. With respect to the very long run, you say that because China is built on deception and things like that, that ultimately the Chinese people are going to maybe revolt or make this kingdom fall down and so on. But I have a lot of doubts about that because this is the only reality that they have known. Before the communist regime came, they were also half slaves under the emperors. And now, they have been brainwashed. They have a high standard of living. And those that don't mingle in politics, that don't go against the regime, they have a reasonable good life if they close their eyes and they don't try to be activists. So I don't see how one can hope for something that is going to break down this big empire that has a lot of power and that gives its citizens a relatively good life at the individual level, how that can happen.
Okay. First of all knowledge we believe in is a question of perception. Okay? So what you have perceived and what I have perceived. If they are different, we draw different conclusions. Okay? Now, I respect your perception. You may have been in China even many times, maybe. Huh? But the thing is, when you have a totalitarian dictatorship, you only hear the voice of the side of the dictator. Right? I mean, I'm living in Germany. I mean, same thing in the Second World War in Hitler time. Yeah, you don't hear much the opposite voice. So in China, it's the same. There are hundreds, millions of Chinese who are not happy. Well, human being is not just like an animal. Just if you get enough food, then you are happy. No, you have a spiritual life. You want freedom, right? And freedom is not free. Huh? And if you are really living in China and really come to know closer to the Chinese people, they may tell you that they are not happy with the system, because lack of freedom, because lack of rule of law. Millions of Chinese people have lost a legal fight in a very unfair way. If you, for example, sue someone who are more powerful than you or rich than you, your chance to lose is very high. Okay? So there are millions of certified people, but they are all silent. So when you go as a businessman to China, like me did too before, I only meet those people who never say a word against the party. But it doesn't mean that there is no one against the party. I can, for example, give you an example. There is an independent media called Epoch Times. Yeah, very good media when it comes to China reporting. They have set up a website 15 years ago to let the Chinese people to declare their quitting of the party. Well, it's not a formal quitting. It's a kind of ideological or mental quitting. Yeah? I declare I don't like this party. I have all what they have done is nothing to do with me. Something like that. Yeah. And guess how many people have already done it? 368 million. So almost 370 million people have declared the quit of the party. These are the 370 million silent people, but they are there. They are there. So remember, in Israel, when I have been in Israel many times, in Israel you have freedom of speech. So when you have been there several times, you get a rather good feeling of how the situation is, how many people like the government, and so on. In China, you can't do that. You have to be an insider, or you are someone very good in having a look behind the scene. Okay? There's an old Chinese saying that the amateur, they watch the show, while the professional, they take a look behind the scene. So I suggest that you all try to be professional and take a look behind the scene.
Well, you have to be at the right place to be a professional.
Yeah, true. Okay, or you just believe in what I say. I am a kind of insider, believe me. They try to recruit me because, when I was young, I worked with high technology, and later I was a higher manager of a big company. So they try to recruit me, yeah, and be very extremely nice to me. But luckily, I have some chance to see behind the scenes. So, and then I understand that this is a bunch of gangsters. Don't think that I have any personal bad feeling with this party. No, they have been treating me as an honorable guest. Yeah, it's red carpet everywhere. But luckily, I saw a lot of things behind the scene.
When you say they are just a bunch of gangsters,
Yes.
who that is? Could you identify in the system a little bit more? Who are those people? Is it part of the elite of the Communist Party, the Central Bureau? That is, how many people we're talking about that are really holding the strings of power? Because, it's not the entire population, as you say, certainly not. It's really probably a minority. But who are they? Can you identify them? In which group are they?
Well, you see, right now in the American Congress and House of Senate, there is a very hot discussion going on. Namely, they want to make a new law to label Chinese Communist Party as a transnational criminal organization, and then by then it means all the 90 million Chinese Communist members are also criminals. Okay, so why I mention this? Well, I tell you, this is the system of the Chinese Communist Party or any Communist Party is very similar to a mafia structure. Okay, you may say that, well, in the mafia there's a hierarchy. Maybe the top people are really bad, gangster, but maybe those guys running in the street stealing things, they are maybe not so bad people. Sorry, when you are a member of the mafia, then you are a criminal. So if you ask me how many are criminal, then I would say all the 90 million members are criminal, and there are many. Because you are a member of a mafia. Even if you haven't killing people, you are already a member.
What is the incentive of a Chinese that is not a member of the party to actually join the party?
Well, the party is a fantastic entry ticket. When you are a party member, you can make career much faster, much easier. Yeah, it doesn't mean that it's impossible if you are not, but if you are a party member, you have a lot of privilege. And when you are a party member, before you become, or when you want to become a member, you have to swear. Yeah? Swear to the red flag that you are ready to die for the party. Is no different compared to a mafia.
Can you fly to China after what you said?
No, I don't want to go there. Of course, they would like to kill me, to be frank. But you know, if we keep silent, you know, the world will never be better.
Last question, because our time is really short already. Okay, maybe Manian, you would like to tell about your YouTube channel?
Okay. If you find my talk interesting, then every week.
Very interesting.
Yeah, thank you. Every week you can watch my YouTube channel. The name of the channel is Mr. Wu in Europe. You know, in Mandarin Chinese, my last name is Wu, which is W-U. Okay, so Mr. M-R, Mr. Dot, and then Wu, W-U, in Europe. If you look for that, then you have my English channel. I have also German channel and Swedish channel and Chinese channel. So I'm quite open. I mean, the Chinese Communist Party, they don't want to work hard to spy me because I'm very open. I have nothing to hide. I'm doing the right thing. They are doing the dirty things. So they have to hide a lot of things. So
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. I'm encouraged and happy to talk to you guys. And I have a strong connection to Israel.
Very informative talk. Thanks.
Thank you.